TalkTV exclusive report has uncovered an epidemic of rogue cycling on Britain's roads. Freedom of information requests submitted by us to 40 police forces in England and Wales has revealed 6 forces had not issued a single fine to a cyclist, while 4 had issued just 1 fixed penalty notice last year.
Unbelievable. Meanwhile, the government has come under fire for failing to honour promises to close a legal loophole that means killer riders will only get a maximum of 2 years in jail. I'm delighted to be joined by Matt Briggs, whose wife Kim was tragically killed by a cyclist riding an illegal bike with no front brakes back in 2016. Matt, first up, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
For coming on Talk today. If you're happy to, tell us about Kim and tell us about what happened to put into context this investigation.
Yeah, Kim and I were together for 27 years. We met when we were 18. When we were at university together. We had 2 lovely kids who were 10 and 12 at the time. And Kim was on her lunch break. She was crossing the road in Old Street and she was hit, suffered catastrophic head injuries and died despite the best efforts of the NHS. She sadly passed away a week later.
And what was you say that the cyclist had no front brakes, which was ultimately what could have avoided this tragedy.
Yeah, the cyclist in Kim's case was riding a track bike, an illegal track bike. So they are totally illegal for UK roads. So it had no front brake. The only way of actually stopping was an aggressive reverse pedal action, which ultimately, led to Kim's death.
And obviously you're dealing with the grief of losing your wife, and then you find out that actually there was this legal loophole that meant ultimately it was very difficult to prove any criminality in this case.
Yeah, it was 1 week after Kim died. I was buying some school clothes for the kids. I remember I was at Bluewater and the police officer investigating called, and up until that point I'd thought that this was a sort of tragic accident. And the police officer investigating called me and said, look, we think there could be criminality here. The bike was illegal for road use. And then came the but, and he said, but we have nothing to charge him with.
This is Charlie Alliston, ladies and gentlemen, the cyclist who took Kim's life, riding an illegal bike with no front brakes, only received an 18-month sentence. People have long talked about a review of this particular law. We were talking about this off air. It's some bizarre law from the 1830s.
Yeah, the only law that they could actually charge with was a 1832 law causing bodily harm by means of wanton and furious riding. So it doesn't even mention causing death. It carries a maximum penalty of 2 years. And for me, it's not so much about tariff. Tariff is important. If you remove the brakes off a car and did this, you would under the Road Traffic Act, you'd face life imprisonment.
Would you'd face life imprisonment?
Up to life imprisonment now under the Road Traffic Act. The thing that I think will surprise viewers is that cycling does not carry anything like the same penalty. There are no laws about causing serious injury or death by illegal or dangerous or careless cycling. There are no laws. And I've been campaigning since 2017. I've had, every single government minister has been supportive. There's been a legal review done which has said, yes, actually this law is needed. I believe this law is written. It has the most extraordinary cross-party support. I get fantastic support from everybody, from the likes of Danny Kruger through to Kerry McCarthy on the Labour benches, Lord Hutton as a Labour peer, Baroness McIntosh as a Conservative peer. It has enormous support. It has support across the media. And yet somehow, for some reason, this is not being done.
Why?
Well,
what are you told?
Well, I'm told many things. I mean, last year, twice, Grant Shapps announced that this law would be passed. Mark Spencer, who was then the leader of the House, backed this up by saying, yes, legislative time is going to be made to pass this law. But still nothing has happened. Now, I can only conclude that despite the protestations of the Prime Minister, this government is utterly cowed and captured by the cycling lobby, or by various elements of the cycling lobby.
The cycling lobby?
There are various cycling lobby groups who, for some reason, do not think this is the priority. I was told many years ago, when I started this, we need more infrastructure, we need more investment in cycling. Well, that's great. I cycle in London all the time, as I know you do. That's been done now. and then some.
Yeah.
So my only conclusion is that the government has been cowed by various elements of the cycling lobby into not doing this. And enough's enough. You know, since Kim was tragically killed, there have been 4 similar incidents where people have had to go through the same complex legal process. It took 18 months for my wife's case to come to trial because it was so complicated by this law. And injuries are up 15%. Now, of course, more and more people cycling, that's fantastic. But what's happening is there's a concomitant increase in the number of people being injured, and there is no law to deal with this.
Can I just very quickly, we've actually got a response from, I think it's the Justice
Minister Edward Argar on cycling laws.
Have a look at this, my friend.
While laws are in place for cyclists, the current laws are old and it can be difficult to successfully prosecute offences. That's why DfT colleagues are considering bringing forward legislation to introduce new offences concerning dangerous cycling to tackle those rare instances where victims have been killed or seriously injured by irresponsible cycling behaviour.
Matt, first of all, my utter respect that you can sit here so calmly, because I'd be looking at that if I had suffered as you have done and your kids have suffered, and I would be thinking, you're just reading from a piece of paper, mate. I lost my wife. Can you give me some emotion? Can you make me believe that you're going to pass a law that anybody with a brain cell understands needs doing?
I'm following a strategy of being politely annoying.
Good for you.
I don't know whether it's serving me very well, but it certainly keeps me calm. I've heard ministers make statements like that several times over the years. I think they're hoping that I'll go away. I think they're hoping that the other families I'm in touch with will go away, and we simply won't.
Good.
We won't go away, because what is stopping this? Why was a Transport Secretary going on the record to say he would introduce this law and then not?
Yep.
What is happening? Who is influencing this government? Because this law is written, it has broad cross-party support, it has support across the media, and it has support from the public.
I don't know what it means to you, but I can absolutely guarantee you this television network will
we
stand
will
full
support
square
you.
behind you, and you can come here and I will shout from the rooftops in there. I think it is absolutely unbelievable. 200 years old, that law.
1832, yeah.
And to have politicians talk about it and gain the public's approval
without doing anything.
Without actually doing anything.
How are your kids, pal?
I can't... Sorry.
To your first point, yes, that I think if my blood pressure were to be risen over this, I think the idea that a Transport Secretary could grab headlines by announcing something that was not going to be done, that is
time and time
quite riling.
again. We see politicians claiming the credit for something that they ultimately do not do anything about.
Yeah.
Matt, very quickly, a massive thank you. How are the kids? They're all right?
My kids are amazing. So my son is now 20, my daughter is 18, and they are, they have. I don't know whether they've got through this. They're getting through this. They're amazing young people. I couldn't.
And their dad is amazing. And I thank you so much from both of us for coming in. And I promise you, whatever we can do, a story that definitely needs telling and a law that definitely needs implementing. Matt Briggs, thank you very, very much
for having
indeed.
me. Thank you.